All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be touching on my top prop bets in the NBA today. It's a 3-game slate. Let's go ahead and get into it. But first, guys, I want to get into a quick recap from yesterday. Yesterday was an interesting day. A lot of bets just going 50 bet slips going 50%. This one was very tilting just because you take out a 2-point conversion. This one does end up hitting. He only gets his over because of that 2-point conversion. Very annoying there. But NFL wise, it was annoying as well with the Thursday night game because like some of the spots that we were on were the correct spots. Like I like Stone Smart to get over 3.5 receptions. 2 days ago now. That was before Hayden Hurst was activated to play in that game, which then obviously led us to be on Stone Smart for under his fantasy score. Kind of mentioned that I thought Corn Sutton would have the game that he had last night, and as a result, Devon Valet would then be a beneficiary from that, which is what ended up happening. We just ended up on the wrong bet for him. Also, I like Kamani Vidal for over his receiving yards, which the production was there. They tried to get him the football several times. A couple of plays, I think all of them were called back, or all of them had a penalty on them, which was annoying on the screen game. Then Hassan Haskins gets in there and scores like a 30-yard touchdown. So tilting there. And then jumping into NBA, the underdog bets, the traditional bets, went 50% on the day. There was a couple of news items that we were hoping for to go our way that did not go our way, which, you know, that's going to happen. Looking at prize picks, I mentioned I really like this stack as a good stacking opportunity, which I don't regret. Like the bet on that was for the game to be close, and it ended up being close, but Detroit was playing from behind for most of that game. So it was a little bit different in that kind of expectation there. But in terms of the good bets that we had on the board yesterday, phenomenal, really. Throughout the whole day as well, I mentioned we were getting some big edges, which we currently have for college football still. But yesterday in the NBA, we had several very good bets that are popping up with an over 54% likelihood to hit. Those ended up, just on the video, ended up going 5 for 6. The only one missing was Jordan Clarkson, who ended up getting ruled out. Not ruled out, he ended up getting ejected from that game, which obviously that sucks there. I don't know if he would have got there anyways. He was just having a bad game. It's probably part of the reason as to why he got thrown out. Now, guys, I bring that up because I literally called that out on the bet slips yesterday, that we had so many good bets that we should just be mixing and matching all the top prop bets together to be able to create some good prop slips. So hopefully you guys have some good bets going on today with some of these college football bets that are still popping up as some of the best bets on the board today, which is obviously what we like to see. And then also, guys, we are getting some good NBA prop bets here as well to be able to go ahead and toss in here. Honestly, this is like, we could already just run out the bet slip for today for Flex Friday. This is going to be an NBA video, but let's go ahead and give you guys that Flex Friday slip here first. So full disclosure, I don't exactly love the two NBA prop bets that are popping up in here right now. If the odds change on those, I'm going to be happy not to be on those. I'll touch on the reasons as to why a little bit later on in this video for those ones specifically. But then we also are still getting those pretty big edges on those college football prop bets there, guys. The weather is a little bit spotty there as well. I saw on Twitter that there's snow on the field there as well, which I don't know if that probably does lead to a little bit more of a rushing attack. But these are really good middling opportunities where you could bet the overs on Underdog there as well. And then we're just getting some good college football edges. And so, guys, for the rest of the video, I'll be covering my favorite NBA bets. There is a protected slip as well. So there's the Flex Friday slip that's currently available. They also have their prize picks as their pick miss going on as well. So you should have a free lineup there as well. I'll give you guys a slip to use for that as well. It'll be a separate slip, but you guys can kind of use whichever ones you want there. And I'll be giving you guys an underdog slip here as well, which will be covering my favorite traditional sportsbook bets there as well for the day. So let's go ahead and jump on into those NBA bets. All right, so looking at Dort for his under fantasy score, this one is one where I am surprised that it's popping up as much as it is, because if we look at like kind of the data points, other than the projection data, like DVP wise could get the over, Vegas mints projection wise, I guess that's really what it is. The under there, I'm strong with this one. I know it's because of the matchup with Miami. It's a more difficult matchup there with Miami. But if we pull up his game log, it was really the last game against Orlando in which he's gotten the under recently. But that being said, that's not exactly true because the NBA Cup game did not count. So it's a little bit skewed there. We're going to see that Dort had 16.5. That's a little bit of a different calculation there on DraftKings, but basically the same on that game or in that game against Milwaukee. So this has been who he has been, like literally just pure hit or miss, guys. Like either he's really crushing the over or getting the under. We have seen that consistently with him. And that's kind of what makes me nervous is that honestly, like I recommend a bet like this and he goes for 40. Like it just makes me Not enjoy recommending those bets. It's annoyed when they could just literally go off. And that's kind of the same thing with Terry Rozier here as well. Not as much so, but he has definitely been more hit or miss where either he's like really getting his under or getting the over. For the most part, this is a more difficult matchup here against OKC. But I don't mind the idea of like pairing those two together, kind of just betting on the game to not be that high scoring. It's projected to be a close game. 1.2 is the point spread. 216.4 is the game total. So definitely a lower scoring game. He is only projected to get 26 minutes in this game, which is a little bit lower than his norm. So I think that goes to more of the under there as well. And so those are the two best data prop bets that we currently have. Now we're going to go ahead and get into some of my favorite prop bets on the day today. And so actually one of my favorite prop bets is looking at Brook Lopez to get over his fantasy score here, a 24.5. Okay, so I want to start with calling out, he does get a difficult matchup here going against Cleveland. That is a more difficult matchup. So he could end up struggling here, but part of the reason as to why I like this is that Damian Lillard is going to be out tonight. And with Damian Lillard off the court, Brook Lopez averages 40 fantasy points per 36. That's a 12 bump in his fantasy points scored per game with Lillard off the court, guys. He also sees a bump in his points up of 5.5 more points per 36 with Lillard off the court. So I don't mind his over 11.5 for his points. He averages 17 points per 36, in other words, with Damian Lillard off the court. And we also saw this happen earlier on this year where Lillard was already out, guys, for a portion with a concussion. And during that stretch, we saw Brook Lopez really have two good games and one bad game against Charlotte, where he just crushed the overs here for his fantasy score. And we have also seen them play Cleveland as well. In one game, had 35 minutes, only 20 fantasy points in that game, kind of struggled. But also, we saw him have 36 minutes and 32 fantasy points in that game. So mostly solid production there. If he's on his game, I do expect him to get his over. And I guess part of it as well, he has been getting the minutes. Like, that's part of it. Like, we should be able to get him to 36 minutes in this game. So I don't mind that over fantasy score if you want to run out points there as well. I'm fine with that. I actually like that bet a decent amount on traditional sportsbook sites for him to get over 11.5 points there, guys. From there, let's stick with the Bucks because we are really getting some good spots here with the Bucks to me. So one player that I'm kind of indifferent about being on is Bobby Portis. He is someone that consistently got this over with Lillard out this year and also last year as well. That's the thing with Brook Lopez too, guys. Just to mention, PrizePicks came out with something that like showed you like who you won the most money betting on over 2024. For me, it was Brook Lopez because of an exact spot like this. And I would imagine Bobby Portis was somewhat close there as well. But Bobby Portis had been someone that would see his lines really spike or plummet depending on the news. Like if Lillard was out or if Giannis was out, he would be really overvalued, or I shouldn't say overvalued, but properly valued, whereas Brook wasn't. That was kind of the nice part. The reason why we're seeing Bobby not really have high lines is because his minutes didn't really increase too much with Lillard off the court. We could expect a little bit more, which is kind of what this is telling us, one more minutes compared to his average. And if he does get those minutes, he should be able to get that over. But if you're betting on Bobby, you're betting on him to, get a slight increase in his minutes. And if we look at the two games against Cleveland, 20 minutes and then 39. So definitely more hit or miss there. Cleveland does run out two bigs, obviously, with Mobley and Jared Allen. So to me, that does increase his likelihood of getting those overs, but again, a little bit concerned there. Now, another player that I decently like in this game is going to be someone that we might not get prop bets on, but I do want to call it out because if we do, I think it will be a good edge. So we see his average rebounds and average assists. Not Gary Trent. I don't want to be on Gary Trent. DeLon Wright here is who I want to be on, guys. So we see the rebounds for DeLon Wright, 1.8 and 1.6 assists. Really not getting the minutes there, but in games where Lillard has been out, we saw him directly get more minutes, 24, 27, and 33 minutes in those games. And I want to call it his production in the rebounds and assists line. So 5 there, 12, 9. And so I just see that, and I don't think they're going to be able to properly value him in terms of those lines. And so if we look at his per 36 production, he sees an increase of rebounds by 2.1 per 36 and sees an increase in his assists by 3.4 per 36. And again, probably not going to get 36 minutes, but just be on the lookout for if we get some of his lines closer to his averages here, even against Cleveland, that is a difficult matchup, I could see betting the overs there. And then lastly, guys, Taurean Prince does see increase as well in his production with Lillard off the court. The biggest thing I should have mentioned probably is that we don't know how many minutes Chris Middleton's going to play. Obviously, Chris Middleton had been out for a majority of the season, so some of the data is a little bit skewed there. But if Middleton still plays 20 minutes or so like he has been, it's not going to change the sample too much that I just been talking about. It wouldn't change those bets too much. If Middleton ends up getting 28 minutes or something, then it would. But I'm not expecting that in this game against Cleveland. Okay, so we should call out here that Taurean Prince, one good game against Cleveland, one bad game. So we are seeing a little bit of hit or miss nature with a lot of these Bucks prop bets. We are really putting a lot on Lillard being out. That's annoying, but it's a 3-game slate, so that's what we have to do. But looking at it, guys, he did get a decent amount of minutes in those games with Lillard off the court. 9 points in one of the games, 7 rebounds, 15 points, 10 rebounds, 23 points, 3 rebounds. So very solid stuff there as well. But what's interesting about Prince here is that he actually sees an increase in his assist. So we see he averages about 1.8 on the season. With Lillard off the court, he actually sees that go up by 2.3 per 36, and he's someone that could end up getting 36 minutes. And I want to call out his projection minutes data. Like, if that does end up being true, then his unders probably will be the way to go. But I'm kind of betting on him to have an expanded role with Lillard off the court. It is a guessing game. Andre Jackson Jr. probably will start tonight. Maybe DeLon Wright gets a little bit more work. Maybe AJ Green gets a little bit more work as well. But if he does end up getting those minutes like we saw him get earlier on in the season with Middleton out, then I think we'll be good to go with his overs. But that's more the bet here. If the minutes are there, I think he'll have a good game. I don't mind his over points of 6.5 there on PrizePicks or on Underdog there as well. I think that's a pretty solid bet. He does average 13.2 points per 36 with Damian Lillard off the court. So I think that's a decent bet there as well. Now, other than the 2 prop bets that are called out on or in the OKC Miami game, I don't really like any other ones. So let's go ahead and jump on into the earlier game. We got Philly versus Charlotte. So there are 2 injury situations that we need to monitor. Brandon Miller, I expect to play there on a back end of a back-to-back. He sat out the front end of the back-to-back, so I'm kind of expecting him to play in this game. And so with that, I don't really see any value that's being created in this game, especially with some of the lines there. They're already kind of making the lines out accordingly. Then we should call it that Joel Embiid. So he was originally expected to sit throughout the weekend, but he apparently is questionable in this game. Now, they are on the front end of a back-to-back, and so my expectation is that he's going to sit out one of these games. If it's tonight's game, we are getting some decent edges, not as big of edges as we were getting a couple of nights ago. And that's going to be because Jared McCain is out as well for Philly, who had been playing pretty well. And so with that, we are getting some decent edges with Maxey, Paul George, and then even Kelly Oubre. Now, let's start with Kelly Oubre because to me, he's the most hit or miss. So we're going to be betting on his over points, which he did get in the last game against Charlotte, 19 points in that game, which is obviously nice. 14 in his game against Charlotte earlier, where he only played 29 minutes. But that's still above his norm. So at least he has played well against Charlotte. And if we look at the lines, like it is giving him about a 51% chance to get over here, which isn't crazy. But if you look at his per 36 production with Embiid and McCain off the court, he averages 15.8 points per 36. So obviously that bodes well for us there. Again, slight increase in production with those 2 players off the court. So not terrible. I kind of like stacking these ones together, guys. And then I also like Maxey for over his points as well. Again, not as big of an edge as we were getting the previous slate when we had this similar situation. But Maxey to get over his points, I don't mind here as well. We're seeing basically a 50-50 split for him at 25.5 points. I want to call it his projected minutes, though, 37. He is someone that could see actually more minutes than he typically does get, like he did in the last game here against Charlotte, where he ended up getting 40 minutes in that game. And that game was a game in which ended up kind of being a blowout there. And so he had 40 points in that game, which, again, really not too shocking. Like, he does see a bump in his usage with McCain and also Embiid off the court, but he does only average, and I do say only, 26.7 points per 36 with those players off the court. But the thing is, he could end up getting a little bit more than 36 minutes, which then would increase the likelihood for him to get his over points. I mean, look at it, guys. They're not really bumping his points up that much. It should be one higher. I would argue it should be at 26. Now, the game is a 10-point spread. That is a concern, but also it is a low game total as well. So that's a little bit concerning there. But if we're going to be running those 2 over points props, okay, we could actually run out this Paul George one. And the Paul George bet would actually be betting on his over assists, which you're going to see is now pulling up here on PrizePicks. And that's because it's going to be a bet in which the over here is not a likely bet. It would be a demon bet if it was available on PrizePicks. But I actually don't mind him to get over 5.5 assists. We did see him do this in the last game against Charlotte, which I don't know if we need to take like too much away from that. Like it's kind of like just because it happened in the last game doesn't exactly mean it's going to happen again, but it is nice to see that. But the bigger point is that you look at the per 36 production for him as well with those players off the court. He averages 7.3 assists per 36. So the fact that he did do that in that last game against Charlotte, I think is huge. And the minutes were there for him. And if we are already betting on Oubre and Maxey to get their over points, this should correlate, and the payout is not being reduced. That's the nice part about this. And so with that, guys, going to be jumping into my favorite bets for the day. Going to start off with my traditional bets there for the NBA. Then going to be giving you guys that protected NBA pick there on PrizePicks. But first, if you guys want to, make sure to head on over to 9to5sports.com, get access to these cheat sheets for just $10 a month. When you use the promo code KeepCash, and you guys will get the first month for 20% off. As I mentioned, the data has been crushing. It's been doing better than me recently, and obviously, hopefully, we keep hope that continues. All right, guys, so go ahead and get into my favorite traditional sportsbook bets. These are the ones I already kind of mentioned in detail as to why I like these. If you guys want to use any of these for, again, more traditional sportsbook bets, or if you guys are someone that can't bet on those, maybe flip or sleeper, these would be the ones I'm looking at here. And then before I get into the PrizePicks bet of the day here as well, I'm going to try to keep it for today only, okay? So I do want to call this out. We are getting Evan Mobley now as a good under bet here as well as what the data is telling us. But if you guys want to toss in this one as well, including a bet for tomorrow, you could do that there certainly as well. But I would just want to keep it for today. I know people like that a little bit more, but if you're someone that just cares about making the best slips possible, you could do that. But again, I do like Brook Lopez for his over fantasy score. I think that's a decent edge. And if we are also betting on Evan Mobley, which is a bet that just popped up in there for the under, I'm kind of okay with that. And then I already got too much action to these guys. I am literally going to have to hedge on Underdog with these ones where I'm betting the overs on some of them, and just maybe we get lucky with the middle there. But they're too good of edges right now in terms of the prop line differences between how PrizePicks and Underdog is valuing those. Like Underdog went down with Love a little bit, and PrizePicks actually went up. That's how strange the line is there with him. So yeah, definitely going to hedge a little bit there on Underdog because I already got so much exposure. I already got a decent amount of bets from yesterday's slips that I kind of gave you guys as well. I mentioned we should be getting action on them where they're like 3 for 3 or 4 for 4, where if these two hit, it's going to be solid. So that's why I might try to hit a middle there on Underdog as well. But that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Make sure to give a like and subscribe. Going to be pumping out more and more content today. Going to drop a college football prop bets video as well as some prop bets for Saturday as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.